that yes, I'm here representing the Independent Living Centres of Australia as opposed to the ILC or the Independent Living Centre of Western Australia, which is where I actually work. But my presentation is to talk about the national body and the national database that a group of us have created, and then following that, Robin will talk about the New South Wales database as a separate entity to this particular one. And I'd just like to say thank you for this opportunity. It's really quite exciting to be able to share this information with you. And so, and the reason that I'm doing it as from Western Australia, from Perth, is that we are currently the lead agency for the ILC Australia National Database, and I was asked to step in on behalf of Jerry Clay to do this work today. I'm hoping that the sound is clear enough and everyone can hear okay. So I'll just give you a little bit of background to the ILC Australia as a collective, and then following that I'll talk a little bit about the national database and the national website. So next slide please, if that's possible, or do I do it myself? I think I do it here. Okay, beautiful. The Independent Living Centres of Australia is a collective of all of the ILCs, and I've got a little map of Australia there showing the different states that are members of the ILC Australia collective. And you'll notice that the orange one doesn't have, which is the Northern Territory, doesn't have an independent living centre, and that area is actually serviced by a number of the other independent living centres, ourselves the light orange one on the left, Western Australia, Queensland the pale blue, and South Australia at the bottom often provide services to the Northern Territory, which obviously has a much smaller population and health service in that area. All of the organisations are slightly different. We obviously have a common thread and a common goal and a common mission as organisations, but we actually are funded differently in each state, and some of them are not-for-profits, as is the Western Australian Independent Living Centre and the Queensland Independent Living Centre and New South Wales. Others are part of government bodies, so they are actually a part of government organisations. We vary in size and in the range of services that we offer. Some have very have specific services that link to the assistive technology, like augmentative and alternative communication, and others have a more generalist service. In Western Australia, for example, we have a driver assessment service, which doesn't, an occupational therapy driver assessment service that doesn't necessarily sit in any of the other states. And other states might have a home modification service, for advisory service that doesn't necessarily sit in other ones. So they all have slight variations around the theme of assistive technology and information service provision, and some direct service delivery and assessment. But the common thread of the independent living centres, I'll just slip ahead, is probably brought together and embodied in that national collective, which is ILC Australia, and that's that one step back from direct service provision to people with disabilities and older people. It's actually a collective that aims to do some systemic and bigger picture work for assistive technology in Australia. And so here on this slide I've got our mission, which I've taken directly off the ILC Australia website, and so there's more around the vision and mission on that website, and I'll show you that shortly. So the ILCA is, as I said, a national collective, and we're there to advance the assistive technology policy and systems and innovations within the Australian government. And probably our big activity at the moment, some may be aware of, in Australia we've recently had legislation passed to enacted a national disability insurance scheme which will change nationally the way services are provided for people, and where assistive technology sits in that, and how assistive technology services and information services like our own are funded in that paradigm is part of the ILC Australia's role at the moment, is to give input and information and lend weight to assistive technology processes in a new system, a new national system. And you can see we also have to encourage the development of evidence for practice and understanding and economic benefits and social benefits, and that's been very much part of that push alongside some other national bodies like ERATA, and to seek and identify emerging trends in assistive technology and advise of its application. So that's sort of very briefly the mission and work of ILC Australia, and I know some of you obviously have had contact with other people within ILCA also. Moving on. So the national database, which I've been asked to talk to you about, was something that was funded in 2009 by the Department of Health and Ageing, and it is a 3-year build in the project. And then following that 3-year build, which actually was undertaken by LifeTech in Queensland, which is the Independent Living Centre of Queensland, is known as LifeTech, it would then pass to Western Australia as lead agency. So it was entitled Assistive Technology Initiative, Taking the Message Out to Older Australians, which obviously reflects the department that funded it. But having said that, the database definitely encompasses all of the assistive technologies that might support any consumer of the Independent Living Centre, which is really people of all ages and their carers and family members and service providers, and their assistive to other people engaged in the provision and prescription of assistive technology. Obviously, with any database, it's almost a living, breathing thing, and a continuously under development and improvement. We freely admit there's a lot of data still to go into our database, and currently we can say that we've got about 12,000 products listed at least with name and short descriptions on the database, and over 6,000 suppliers. And it is truly a national database, and so developing systems of filtering and being able to find the information that's relative to local sites is really important, and that's some of the work that's underway currently, and making it a functional tool for sharing information and leading people to the right spot as quickly as possible. One of the things that's important in this to note is that we all had our own databases, and we all had quite effective methods of sharing the data and importing from one state to another and checking duplications and making sure we had everything that everyone else had. But we were all entering it separately. And so obviously this database represents a great improvement in, or a great opportunity in efficiency in maintaining the data by combining that workforce across all of the different independent living centres. And we all have different sizes of workforces, so it was hopefully will be quite advantageous to certainly some of the smaller states, and we certainly all benefit from everybody contributing to the database. And as we know, New South Wales still has their own database, but we do data share with New South Wales as well, so there's still benefits in sharing and communication obviously there too. The national database has the features and design principles that were sort of we aim to underpin the development of the database on were searchability, readability and usability. And I know from a WA perspective, our old database required people to put in a major and a minor group, and people had to know what the product sat in to be able to find them. Word searching was very difficult. So we've actually come up with a system that allows for that word searching to happen, and people don't have to know how to classify the equipment, which is certainly a lot more searchable than previously. There is national product information, so I can be here in Western Australia and looking for, products for my father-in-law who lives in country Victoria, which is a 5-hour flight, a 4-hour flight, or 3-hour flight and 3-hour drive away, and know where the suppliers are close to him. We built in, obviously, web accessibility and many ways to try and find the product that we want, that the person wanted, so by functions, by name and by type. And we're aiming towards having feature comparison across the database, and at the moment probably the wheelchair area is the place that it demonstrates it best, and it's reliant on us building some good templates early up for the way we describe stuff, and good rules around measurements so that people can, and descriptions, so people can look at products and do a feature comparison. One of the things that we're keen to have and to continue, and we're keen to sort of promote amongst suppliers in Western Australia, or in Australia, is that they register and actually do some of their own maintenance of their contact information and some of their own data that goes through an approval process also. So it is QA'd before it's allowed to go up on the website. And that's coming on well, and developing links with suppliers helps us to do that. So and the last slide I've got is the national. It's just a page that gives you the website and it shows the contact number that we all operate under is a toll-free contact number. And so anywhere in Australia, this number will link you to the closest independent living centre. What I'd like to do now is share the screen, if I may, and so I can just do some walking through of that. Now, forgive me, I'm a beginner with this particular one moment. It's telling me it's downloading an Adobe add-in.
No, okay. I think my microphone is working now, so again.
That's great.
Hello, everybody. It's funny because I always try, I've been spending a week trying audio with you and with our partners, and suddenly mine is not working anymore. Anyway, do you remember how it works? Sally's not there anymore. So let's wait a minute because, okay, she's there again. Because when you have to download the... So now we can see your screen, we can see the website, but I think we cannot hear you well. Because I can't see the microphone icon switched on. It's not a very lucky webinar. Sally, we are not listening to you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Yeah. It seems to not like me sharing my screen. Is there any way you can share? Hang on,
You can. You need to choose the share
hang on,
my. Then you
okay,
can.
I think, yeah. All right, I'm there now. It seems to be difficult. It likes me to do 3 different things at once on this computer. It pops up with things saying allow all the time, and I think it's that they've got a virus protection that doesn't allow some add-ons to happen. So,
But I think we try. Well.
Okay, now I need to go back to trying to share the share a different screen. Share my screen.
You can choose a different option. You can choose to share a window or an application.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try again and see if make sure I try share that. As soon as I hit share the desktop, it actually didn't let me. So.
But I'm quite sure that we tried last week and it was working. So I don't know why.
No, I know. Let me just try again. So if I go application, okay, I'll go share. Okay. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I'll just I have to reopen the web page, so apologies.
Okay.
Okay. This is a lesson in staying calm.
Okay.
Okay, so can you see it now?
Yeah.
And you can hear me still?
Yeah, everything is okay now.
Beautiful. Okay. So very quickly, I won't take too much more time. This is obviously the home page of the ILC Australia national website, and you can see it has all the usual things you'd expect from a bar across the top that directs you to the About Us pages and the contact details of the different states. Some nationally relevant information. It's important that we don't get too local in it, and these things will change depending on the flavour and the information that's being requested of the services currently. And then there's lists of community services that operate nationally in this area. But onto the equipment database component, and I must say that we're actually about to update this page again and update and refresh the look of it. So it's about to change and become even a little bit more accessible and a little bit more user-friendly. And I have a new design that's nearly ready to go. We have a browse products space, which I'll show you what that looks like. And so it takes you to an area that allows you to go in through products by topic. So for example, if I was going to go to scooters, wheelchairs and wheeled mobility, it would bring up a range of subcategories here, and we'd be able to go into wheelchairs, manual wheelchairs, folding manual wheelchairs. So there's a few levels that you can go down into. Let's go the usual, and then there's lists of them here. And if I knew the title, if I wanted to look for the Freedom brand one, I could type Freedom up in the box up here. If I was already familiar with the product and wanted to check the dimensions or the type of them. Going into say this one, you can see at this stage we have some general models and specifications written there. And if I clicked on the supplier tab, there's 11 suppliers, and if I scroll down a little further, there's some disclaimer information and an image. But if I looked at all of them, there'd be a big list here of the different suppliers. And I could filter this by state and look at all the ones in Western Australia, of which there are quite a few. And I can print from this page or email, or I can add this particular product up here to a shortlist and create a list of the products that I wanted. If I go back to folding manual wheelchairs and choose another one here, some of the ones under 15 kilos, I can choose them. I can actually add it to the shortlist from here also if I wanted to. And I can go back easily enough and just choose a few. And then if I want to review my shortlist, I can actually choose by products or suppliers for the shortlist and look at the range of different ones that are there. Further down the page, I can choose to select them all, print them all if I wanted to hand them to someone or email them to somebody. Often you'll have a therapist ring us who is looking for, which ones fit this dimensions and are under 15 kilos. Together we can search them out, and we can actually use some advanced searching and be able to narrow the list and then forward that on to those therapists so that they don't have to do that piece of research. We can also do a comparison down here. These buttons obviously need to be made a bit bigger and a bit more accessible, but that's part of the work still to be done. And you can see we obviously still have a fair bit more data entry to do, and some of our product areas we're still building the templates to ensure that we can get good comparisons. So you may go and check out an area and find that there's not a lot of comparison, but it'll be there. It just takes time and quite a lot of manpower to enter. And you can see here that there's, the capacity to look at, the depth of the seat is obviously a lot bigger in the Autobot than the Answer and so forth. So you can do a whole lot of different comparisons quickly and more easily there without having to flick through page by page. In this area here, I can search by supplier and pop in the name of a supplier and come up with their details. And once I'm actually in their details, I can scroll down and see all the products that we have listed against those that supplier. We will also have, for internal use, locations so that we can instantly see that we have one on display or one in our caravan that we take to the or one in our hire library. So the different ILCs in Australia will be able to say, yes, I've got one here, you can make an appointment and come and see it. And people will be able to notice that. So I can then, have a look at a heavy duty chair if I want to, that's in their list, and it takes me back to that familiar page. And as I said, you can search for things by the type of product it is. I can just put in spoon, for example, and it'll come up with all the different items that have spoon against it as a tag. Or keyboard. And all of the different types of keyboards will come up here, and we can look through and start to sort. Or I can go back through that product topic or function type process to find them. Are there any questions at this point? I feel like, apart from being frustratingly inept at managing the software here, I've talked a lot. Would anyone like to ask me any questions?
So I don't know if there is any question. I think we don't have. I'm sorry because we wasted much time, but we have to go on because also there is a problem now. I would like to ask to Robin, Emma, to Andrea Pets because she needs to go in 15 minutes. I don't know because Robin, I know that she's late in Australia, so
20 to 9.
ah,
I have
okay.
a nearly 2-hour drive home. I mean, I don't mind. It's
Okay,
not
so
ideal.
how you can find an agreement. Um, Andrea, tell me something because actually I don't know. You are in a difficult situation both. Okay, so um, thank you. I give the floor to Robin Chapman presenting the Independent Living Center NSW. And okay, so I thank Sally for the moment. She wants to stay connected, stay tuned, and maybe answer to questions later if she has time. So let's go on.
I need to do no, we'll just go straight in. Sorry, open that, yes. And then what?
We're not showing the screen yet.
Okay, Robin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. I won't go through all the Independent Living Centre of Australia information given by Sally, but I will point out some highlights or some differences that happen in New South Wales because of them. So we live in Sydney, in the west of Sydney. For those of you who don't know Australia, approximately 1/3 of the country's population lives in New South Wales, and approximately 1/4 of the country's population lives in Sydney. So the bulk of the Australian population lives in New South Wales. You heard Sally mention that they have a caravan and they can go around the state displaying items. We are not allowed to do that. Our funding body is our state government, and instead they funded us to provide a web-based model of service delivery for people, and we launched our website in 2009, and we have to acquit against the funding that's given to us and our service delivery stats through the website with the rest of our service delivery as well. So that's perhaps a potted version as to why there are two websites or two databases operating in Australia. We're also a little bit different in that we are a registered training organisation and can deliver training against the national competencies within Australia, and are about to embark upon a consumer-based mentoring project with the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and one of our focuses is actually building consumer capacity for choice. Thank you, Sabrina. The other element of difference is that we also run an access consultancy. Unlike the other ILCs, we are a public company rather than an association or a government body. We're still not for profit, but that gives us the capacity to work outside New South Wales. So in our training and in our access consultancy, that's what we do, but our funded business keeps us in New South Wales. Thank you, Sabrina. So we refer to our website as our indirect model of service delivery, being that people come into us via the website, and we may or may not provide them with a direct service. We have a subscriber section, and that subscriber section, which is called AT Magic, is about to become the public subscription, the public search facility. We're doing quite a lot of web development at the moment, including a virtual ILC that will link to the database as well and become an additional search facility. I should have updated the statistics. In the calendar year 2012, we had 483,000 odd visitors. USA, UK, Canada are consistently the top three. You might be interested. The UK last financial year had just under 30,000 visitors. From Germany, just over 2,000 visits. Republic of Ireland, just under 2,000. France, 1,500. Italy, 1,100. And Spain, just under 1,000 visits to our website. Our Asian stats are more important to us for obvious reasons. We sit in this part of the world. So scrolling on down. We're going to demonstrate now the website, and I am hoping that we can call it up. Okay, we're going to share the screen now. I'm going to need Goretti to help me to do this. So if you please bear with me, we'll go back to the.
So now you choose share my screen, but I think Goretti can help you. Okay.
Goretti has control right now, but we need to go back to the home page. Right, so here we are. Can everyone see this? I hope. Yeah. Sabrina, can you see it? Yes? So here we have our home page, and right up front you'll see there's a toolbar of the different things to look at on the website, a login for our subscribers section, and contact details, and another search facility. Search for a product, browse product, everything we do, and all our upcoming events. And we're very pleased. We launched Facebook and YouTube last week. So I'm just going to go straight onto the information that you're all interested in. We'll go to browse first. So we have two ways at this stage, there will soon be three, that people can find an item they're looking for. The first page is the browse page, but you'll also notice across the top here, that's the supplier directory. We develop all our own web media, and you'll see that as we go through, and we have clipboard facilities as well. And I'll take you through that process. So in the browse facilities, they're all according to functional category. And if we were to choose lifting and standing equipment, just pick an item and show you how we present our information. So our information can be presented in a grid view or in a list view, depending on what the client likes. And if we were to open up one of these items, you would see the print icon on the right, and you would see here's the Allegro lifter. It only has one photograph. If there's more than one photograph, they're listed along here and you click on them. The basic information, and you can open that to gain more. The features and the options, the basic price, and the fact that there are 9 suppliers. So here we have the overview, so the short description, the method of use. I wished I'd looked at this one beforehand. Models and options, there's only one model. The dimensions, which we don't seem to. I picked one, that'd be right. Additional information, so this is about the construction and other things people need to know, and setup and maintenance. So that's how we provide the information to people, regardless of how they search. But I didn't show you the suppliers, I'll show you that next. If we are going to search, however, there are 173 products that match the search. And here we are with our faceted search. So we can select by category. And here we have 120 hoists. Now you can start refining your search. So what type of hoist, what type of client, and are there any features that you would like? And do you need a supplier that's close to you? So we're just going to refine this search just a little bit. We'll should do overhead. I have a thing about overhead hoists, but we won't. We'll do mobile, we'll do powered, and we might, again, I haven't checked this, we might see if it has a weighing scale. If you go further down now, we have load capacity by specification. So you can add a person's weight in there already if you want him to do load capacity. Or you click bariatric and that automatically opens up. So we're going to update. And we're now down to 16 products. So having got the 16 products, I'm not going to go through, you can see the way that works. We are going to now add this to our clipboards because we want to have a closer look at them. So I'm going to pick, and lo and behold, I've prepared one already. So we're going to add it to the ETNA webinar clipboard, and we might take the InvoCare one as well. So we go up to the ETNA clipboard, and here it comes. So we can edit anything we like in here. We're about to change some of the language here. So if you open the edit frame, you can type in things about a client, and this is all secure because it's related to an individual's email address, and save the changes. Didn't make any changes, but I'll save that anyway. And here we are back at the clipboard again. So here are the two items that we've chosen on the clipboard. And you can either remove it, you can open it to have a look at the information as it's set out, and you can cut and paste any of that information and add it here, or add what you like. So, you know, this suits the client, but mum thinks it's a little big. That could actually go in there, or you can cut and paste for something that you particularly like. So we're now going to move to compare. I hope I'm not moving too quickly. I hope, and I wanted to show you something and I've missed it, never mind. So we're just going to compare these two, drag in, and see how they end up on the screen, side by side, description side by side. That read reviews there is a facility that we have. We haven't yet had the funding to put that up, but that's a 5-star review capacity similar to Amazon. And then we have the models and the options, the features. So we actually had asked for a scale. They both have scales, and the one on this side has the stretcher as well on my left. Then we have additional information, and here are all the dimensions side by side, so it makes it easy to check that you've got the load capacities and the bases and things that you need. And then the pricing and the suppliers. Here are all the suppliers, and I'm going to open one up and show you what happens when I open up a supplier. So we'll just, we'll try, who have we got here? No, we'll open up AMS. No, GTK. Where is GTK? Oh, there it is. Okay. So we'll open up a supplier. And the supplier's details come up here. We can also go directly to their website from a point. Here are all the other items provided by or on the website by that supplier. And here is their link to their website. The map's having trouble loading. That's having trouble loading, and you can email the supplier directly from the website if you're wanting to check on a price or to get an approximate quote. You can look at the street view. For some reason this isn't loading, maybe I'm not giving it enough time. So we're going to go back. And I'm going to go back to the clipboard. So having had a look at those two, we're to select one. Now this clipboard can have multiple items on it, so you can collect an entire suite of AT for a person on the one clipboard. But we're going to select and make our recommendation. I didn't mention, University of New South Wales is our web developer. Their human-computer interaction laboratory are our web developer. So we're just going to choose the Invacare and choose the supplier. And here are all the suppliers of Invacare. We are also loading Australian data, but we're also loading, it would be nice if I came across one here, some New Zealand data. There we are, Auckland, Wellington, New Zealand. Leven, New Zealand, Korea, New Zealand, Walk on Wheels, New Zealand. So we're loading national and New Zealand data as well. So I need to choose a supplier, so I'm going to choose GTK, whose things we looked at, and I'm going to customize and preview. So here we have our assistive technology recommendation. Here's everything loaded out. We can show the model info separately. If there was multiple models, they would be listed here and you can edit them out. You can edit out the options by clicking and then editing, and you can add in comments as well. Scrolling down, here's the supplier's details again with their website, their email address, a place to type a quote and a place to type any additional information. And then you can print and save and then email it to a client, or the client or yourself if you so choose. Gosh, my English is bad this evening. But what I also wanted to show you, I'm just going to, I forgot to show you on the way through here. So I'll show it this way. When you do a search for hoists, the hoist web media will come up at the bottom of the page. And here's our web media. And this is all going to be on YouTube very soon and part of the public access area. So for the Italians in the group, we have a nice piece of web media on the Total Ability Fatio Italiana driving aids that we have on display. Oops. Help. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn that on. So we have supplier demonstrations, and they're the AT demos. We have oodles of those. And then we have our education modules, which are aimed principally at younger therapists who may not have had much experience in AT, and particularly in rural New South Wales, where they may be 500 kilometres or more from their nearest senior. And I think the distances we have to travel in Australia are immense, and this is one way we get around that here in New South Wales. So, and then we have therapeutic discussions, which are little GarageBand clips that people can download to their iPod, and they're based on a therapist's conversation at a lunchtime. So that, I guess, was a quick run through the ILC New South Wales database and website. We're actually using the previous database that the ILCA is not using, but we restructured the information and created an interface, or at least our web developers designed an interface that took that information up to our website in that manner. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. I wonder if there is any question. Maybe maybe because Robin has to go now, so I will forward you their contacts so that you can send emails in order to have some more information. Because now I would like to give the floor to Andrea Petz, and she, as you know, she needs to go in 10 minutes, so maybe she will give a brief overview of her presentation, and then I will give you her yeah, PowerPoint presentation or PDF in order to.
And thank you everyone for understanding how late it is over here.
No, thank you very much, Robin, and also Sally for attending at this time of the day.
Thank you. It was lovely to talk to you all. Sorry for the technical hitches. Good night. Bye, Rob.
Thank you so much. It was very interesting. I will. Can I give your contacts, your email contacts to our partners so that you can keep in touch and exchange information? Okay.
Yes, of course. I'd love that. That would be fantastic. I've put it up as in the chat, but I'm happy for you to share it afterwards. That's fine. Thank you.
And I come to Italy every May, so maybe I should.
Okay, Andrea, this is your presentation. So,
yes, can you hear me?
Luckily, yes.
Yes, you can hear me, good. Yes, luckily. Hello, I'm really happy that I now really have the possibility to talk to you about eACCESS Plus, the project. I know that I talked a lot about eACCESS in the ETNA consortium already, so I just will present the most important findings and outcomes of the eACCESS Plus roadmap that we had to compile, and that is some kind of the most core product of our project. I prepared 34 slides. I will not be able to present all of them in 10 minutes, so I will just pick the most important outcomes, and afterwards you will get the PDF version and will be able just to read what you have missed. And in case of questions or in case of something that is not so clear, you can easily write me an email and ask, and we can discuss afterwards. So let's jump in. As you perhaps can remember, eACCESS Plus was divided in 3 work packages. It was work package 1, the web accessibility related work package. The work package 2 was related to IDTV, to digital TV and total conversation. And the third work package was related to SSTs, or self-service terminals. Let's jump right in. We have here the challenges in web accessibility. When asking the converted, these are the people that really implement web accessibility already in their daily work and daily living, they told us that making sure that accessibility is considered in project planning and managing is really hard. And also making sure that accessibility is considered in ICT procurement and in commissioning processes is a problem. Also, it's really hard to teach non-tech people how to create accessible content, because normally the people sitting in the informatics department or in the tech department are not those providing, let's say, the website content and so on. And therefore they have to give them information on how to create accessible content. And also, but we know everything of this already, it's really hard to persuade people of the business benefits of web and e-accessibility. And this is what we saw throughout the whole project. Industry people, manufacturers, they just ask, what does this give to me? How will I be able to take to tier profit out of accessibility? And this is not only for web accessibility, but also for SSTs and for digital TV. first and foremost for digital TV. Hot topics, content management systems. Are there content management systems that provide accessible content? Or what about virtual learning environments, online survey tools? Which internet applications? What about social networking systems? How can someone make them accessible? Then web authoring tools, social networking, and of course the more techy stuff like captures, flash and multimedia content, blogs and documents. So what are now the key priorities we found out? We need education. We need education and educational advertisement on web accessibility needs. And this needs to be strengthened or even developed. So implement accessibility and e-accessibility within special curricula and study courses. For example, computer science, software, or web design. Then within mainstream curricula, like business. So we have the business models. Nobody asks you, so what does it give to me? What is the return of interest for it? So, but they know it themselves in law, in design, in architecture. This promotes accessibility not as favor for the disabled, but because accessibility in the moment is more or less just a favor for the disabled and not a conditio sine qua non or not a necessity for everybody. And education could change this. And this also promotes expertise, interest, and also important, following job perspectives for web accessibility experts. Yeah. Additional topics that have to be put on the agenda is not only the technical accessibility, but also the importance of legibility and readability of content, because the best prepared website is worth nothing when the content is not to be understood, not to be used, and not to be kept by the target group. So then I will just skip this. I had a lot of them already in my presentation. What about IDTV and total conversation? Accessibility features in digital TV are subtitling or captioning, then audio description, visual signing, clean audio, text-to-speech, and of course, accessible hardware. Traditionally, people concentrate on accessible hardware to have the remote control accessible, to have the products accessible, but not so much this content feature, this content thingy. The beneficiaries are totally clear, but you have to enrich this. It's not only persons with disabilities, hearing, or hard of hearing, or deaf people. It's not only older adults, it's not only digital immigrants, but the benefits are also for the companies and institutions that want to reach the biggest possible user group across borders and languages. Because if I have a channel, if I have the means to prepare it accessibly, it's easier to adapt it. So, digital TV provides accessibility in most cases as opt-in features, so you can put it on or put it off as you like. But there is a lack of interoperability and compatibility between the broadcast channels and the receivers, and this needs further research and action. Most important, the reuse of programs in accessible formats, some kind of sustainability on an international basis and across all possible platforms, because people don't use the TV set anymore for watching TV. They are using their tablet, they are using their mobile phone, they are using whatever is possible to enter the internet with. Even a Kinect or even a Wii, PlayStation, whatever, can enter the internet in the moment, and you can use it for watching TV, for seeing program online. So we know, because of the role of standards, because standards could help, of course. There are new interfaces, platforms, and devices become widespread. Seen from content perspective, this is a really important point, the COPE strategy is required. COPE means create once, publish everywhere. So this is this makes some kind of certainty for the producers that their money is not just wasted and the product disappears after some time, but is used also in other contexts and can be sold even more. Then the content is no longer related to a single platform, as I told before. And the lifespan of a content is longer than that of the delivery platform by being spread to new platforms, to new countries, to new target groups. High quality access services and measures are expensive. All this captioning and signing, this taking videos and translating is expensive. So standards can be beneficial and facilitate accessibility and access services, but standards are not flexible enough. That's what we found out. And the time to change and adapt them brings a delay for consumers and industry. And they want to sell it. So they say, no, come on, we are accessible for A, B, and C, but yeah, not for D, E, and F. But shall we just stop the service or take the most advantage out of technical development we could have? So what's needed is a two-folded path, a basic framework with standard accessibility rules and regulations, so that the basic standard is accessible, but flexibility for future AT relevant developments inside, because anyone who ever watched a standard to be born knows that this is really a long process. Good. Recommendations. A change in view on accessibility is needed. And how can this happen? Of course, education and educational advertisement. We have to move the scope from the really severe disabilities to the whole spectrum and keep in mind also the possible combinations. Yeah, in the moment we just have the blind ones that get the audio description, and we have the deaf people that get the captions and the visual signing. Nothing in between so far, but there's a whole spectrum in it, and sometimes I want this, sometimes I want that, and this should be and will be possible to be combined easily. So the quality and usability not only of the devices and services, but also of the provided content is then in focus. So people have to know that there are services. Most people have a huge TV at home and don't even know how to use all these services. And people don't read manuals, as we all know. So there should be some kind of information campaign. With this TV, you can not only make this, but also make that, and so on. There is a collaboration between stakeholders needed, a broader definition, standardization and development in this two-folded path for new services and platforms. The reuse of content should be strengthened. Legislation, of course, support to research and development in this direction. We need new business models, and we have to somehow to find some means to make sure that they reach a critical market size and to provide some certainty for providers and manufacturers also across borders. So the more national legislation we have, the bigger will be the implicit market, the internal market implications, sorry. So self-service terminals. What are self-service terminals? They are used for banking and finance, e-government, voting, for transport, for tourism and cultural heritage. Yeah, it's from ATM to a kiosk. They are widely used and will become even more important because they are available 24/7. They are low in personal cost. I just have to put them there, attach them to the power supply and to the internet. They are ubiquitous, and they are a huge barrier, if not accessible in three terms. Term architecture and reachability, from soft and hardware handling and user interface, and also from the content perspective. If the architecture is good, the soft and hardware is good, but the content is not provided for the biggest possible user group, then it won't reach anyone. Demands and barriers. The SST industry is highly fragmented. Yeah, the SST industry follows the trend in modularity. So yeah, I have producer 1 that makes this little thingy, producer 2 makes another little thingy, and afterwards all this is combined to an SST, to a self-service terminal. So it's almost impossible to keep track of accessibility considerations throughout the whole production or value chain. The SST industry is always in a race to keep track with the latest technology. And of course, there's not a clear boundary between SST industry and other industries, because a self-service terminal consists of a touch screen, let's say a camera, a projector, a remote monitoring software, and also an internet application. So it consists of a lot of things that are not easily made accessible. The criteria for e-accessibility could be reachability in architectural terms, in terms of controls, buttons, and also interaction, in legibility of the content, in the ease of use of using it. If you are a wheelchair driver and you have to put in your ATM card, your chip card, in 1.50 meter height, you won't be able to do so. Also this, or if you need a lot of strength, a lot of power to open up an SST or some kind of vending machine to take out something, this is also an exclusion criterion. Then if you have different input and output alternatives and interaction schemes, this is good. And most important, if the SST is adaptable to individual preferences, be it in height, make it higher or lower, whatever, make the letters bigger or smaller, make the symbols bigger or smaller, and so on. But also slowing down the interactions and the dialogues, or make a replay if someone isn't understanding it or didn't get some notice. This would be really beneficial. Additionally, there could be some other help measures, either spoken or on the screen, or even in easy to read or plain language, so better in language, better adapted for the people. This would be good for the biggest possible user group. And then something especially for public transport tickets, for buying public transport tickets, something like spell checking and intelligent word prediction, or some kind of available standard interactions should be implemented as hotkeys. So this would be beneficial for the biggest possible user group. There's a huge amount of standards and guidelines that apply to single functions of an SST, but none that really deal with an SST as a whole. There are ISO standards, CEN standards, national standards, and also there are guidelines. Yeah, those guidelines are in most cases national, and they come from tourism, often connected to tourism and accessible cultural heritages and museums. But not so much is done for a SST as a whole on a European or even international basis. Recommendations: awareness raising among stakeholders, users and industry, what it brings if you make it accessible. The last point, the subliminal mainstreaming, points also in this direction. We need, again, education and educational advertisement. So to overcome these urban legends, of course, accessibility implemented after a product is designed, this is additional cost, and not too small costs. But if you plan it from the very beginning, this is not this is not too high. Yeah. The size of the target group, if you make them aware that everyone that is used to a machine that is easier to handle will use it, not depending on any disability or whatever. People always use what they can easily get, what they see, what is well designed and easy to use. And this also makes the market potential higher and makes also the business cases for them. Information repositories could be beneficial if they are tailored, like in the eACCESS Plus Hub. So a collection of business models and best practice examples, of course, guidelines for the whole product SST, perhaps like in IDTV if they are basic enough. And then the technology comes with flexibility. Yeah, this could be beneficial, and also something that we call subliminal mainstreaming. So just put a machine that is accessible, that is easy to use, put this machine somewhere besides other machines, and just have a look. What are people using? So research studies and other people were quite sure that they will use the easy machine, and so you can sell this idea to the manufacturers and to the industry that everyone is using this instead of just doing a favor for the disabled. Then we had horizontal roadmap items. I will just jump to the most important, because these roadmap items popped up when we did our research, and these are topics that are not fully explained or driven further by a single work package, but just by combinations and additional considerations of all work packages. And I will just jump to the accessible education, as I mentioned here that education is core, is key to the uptake of e-accessibility in the moment. The focus was education on e-accessibility, as this topic was identified most important and influencing. In the moment, e-accessibility is seen as standalone issue, nice to have add-on, it's expensive, it's a favor to the disabled, with low and uncertain market potential, or a matter of public procurement, and not following clear and concise prerequisites, guidelines, and rules. This is what we heard from people when we asked them on their view on e-accessibility. Hindrances. There is a lack of demand for skills in e-accessibility. There is this legislation, there is this pressure from the public to have everything accessible. Yeah? So we call someone who knows it, or we even have some agency doing it for you. But there is, of course, a lack of interested people and students that want to become e-accessibility experts in the moment. So why is this? This is because there is no special education on e-accessibility, and not even on a master for accessible web design or whatever. There is nothing like this in Europe. So there is no reflection of e-accessibility in both, in specific as well as mainstream curricula. If you apply for a job and you are an expert for e-accessibility, it's a nice to have add-on. So there are no jobs specifically written for e-accessibility experts. We really wanted to find jobs and to make jobs, so we had an own part of our eAccess Plus website for a job portal. We don't have a single job offer or a single job seeking person on this website, even it was up there for almost a year. So there is also no awareness for the uptake of e-accessibility. And this is a circulus viciosus. This is really bad, because if there is no awareness for and the uptake of e-accessibility, we will have a lack of demand for skills, we will have a lack of interested people, and so this system gets reproduced, and we will be in 10 years at the same state we are in the moment. The key players involved are a lot of people. The normal people that you all have in mind, like end-user organizations, industry and service providers, educators and curriculum developers, the policy, EU and national, and we also have involved umbrella organizations and networks, such as EDF, the European Disability Forum, EASPT, the EACCESS network, the ED network, Design for All at e-Inclusion, eACCESS Plus. Yeah, we try to involve them and interest and taking them to be interested in education, and also the CPIS, the Association of Information Societies in Europe. Recommendations: there should be further research and comparative studies that we know what is out there. We found a lot of educational activities. Most of them are on accessible web design. It's just courses. There is no single master or even bachelor on this accessibility stuff. Then we should have curriculum proposals. Then a policy uptake and simplification of procedures to get those curriculums up and running. Then just have a look at local and national or even European initiatives that we don't know so far, revisit them and reinforce them, and make some kind of accreditation and certification possible. The harmonization of educational activities. So this is the accessible tourism. You would have to read it yourself. Just a last word, as it is really late and I'm too late for my appointment anyway now. Linking eACCESS Plus. Of course, we also look to other relevant research activities and existing roadmaps developed. So first we had the CARDEC project results. You will hear about them after my presentation here. This is complementary to the eACCESS Plus roadmap, but more focused on concrete implementation issues. That's what we didn't, because our task was to research why is the uptake of e-accessibility so low, and this in 3 dimensions. Then the GP2 project, there's a great potential for eACCESS Plus roadmap to become one of the GP2 reference documents and influence future GP2 activities. There was also some contact already. Next thing is the BRAID roadmap. eACCESS Plus roadmap could provide the missing link between the aging focus of this roadmap and e-accessibility related issues, as e-accessibility is not only is not a standalone thingy, but it's highly horizontal. Then with the AAL Alliance, the A Alliance 2 project, there is we see a great potential for eACCESS Plus roadmap to influence some of the recommendations and connectivity for eACCESS Plus to a wide range of additional stakeholders. So this is where we have to go, where we have to get in touch. And the further use of the eACCESS Plus roadmap in EU campaigns and ICT standardization should be secured. So also in design for all freedom of movement, age-friendly environments, whatever, should be thought. Then in new proposals, this was a quite, it was meant seriously. Why not add in every new proposal of funding, a proposal going for funding in Brussels, why not enter like we had it before in the gender mainstreaming thingy or in the ethics part? Why not just add, are you related to accessibility? And if not, why not? This could be done, yeah, why not? And the best thing of all is that our eACCESS Plus roadmap was already screened by EASPD. This is the umbrella organization of care organizations for people with disabilities in Europe. They decided to take up eACCESS Plus roadmap and to implement this roadmap into their future annual work and just come back to the roadmap, check it, and rework it if necessary. So this was it in really short. The hub will be up and running also after the projects. We will have the final review in some weeks. Then the webpage will be maintained, coordination tools will be maintained, and of course, we will update our public relation materials and we will also use them. So I thank you for this quite quick presentation of the outcomes and interlinking of eACCESS Plus and eACCESS Plus roadmap. And if you have any questions, I would ask Sabrina just to forward it or just by email. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I think the presentation was quite comprehensive. I would suggest that if you have any questions, you can just send an email to Andrea. Anyway, there is a presentation that you can download. You can see below the list of participants. Now I would say I would give the floor to John because, well, it's late. I think John is. I hope is ready. I will stop sharing this one and uploading the new presentation.
Thank you. I'll just wait while the presentation.
Yeah, it's uploading. I can hear you perfectly, so
good.
At least so.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. What I'm being asked to talk about is the Cardiac project, which was funded by the European Commission to try and develop a research agenda roadmap in accessible and assistive ICT Information and Communication Technology. The project is made up of a number of partners. Now, the significant aspect is that virtually all of them were previously members of COST 219, so there's a strong linking backwards to that grouping. So I keep pressing the wrong button. So the aim of the project was to advise the European Commission as to where to direct research funding in the near and more distant future within the context of ICT for independent living, inclusion and governance. That's a pretty grand aim. The normal method would be a small group of people to huddle in a room and possibly go and consult by telephone a few of the major companies in the area. However, Cardiac approached the project rather differently. It decided it needed to have consultation with actually all the relevant stakeholders, which is quite a wide spectrum of people who are potentially interested, including, very importantly, the consumers. And it needed to do a structured process for generating the influence maps, and the process it decided to use was a structured dialogue design process. And this meant involving not just what needs to be done, but in what order it needs to be done and how all these things interlink together, which turns out to be quite complex. So, for instance, it started off with an analysis of the current situation and developments, which led into vision building, gaps analysis, activities, eventually an influence graph, and then finally that led in to developing a roadmap. So the thing concentrated initially on 3 particular areas were identified. Technology transfer, which is a fancy way of saying how you get research from the laboratory to the consumers at a price they can afford. The other 2 major areas we looked at was inclusive human-computer interaction and network-based services, which is quite a broad area. So these are not totally covering the area, but these are 3 major activities which needed to be addressed. So in these workshops, we started off with posing a question. And the first one on technology transfer was, what mechanisms would ensure successful technology transfer in accessible and assistive products and services? And by going through that question and getting people to contribute as to what they thought, and then analyzing how everything interlinked together, you eventually end up with an influence tree, which looks horribly complex, and it looks at the different aspects and how things link together and what needs to be done first and what needs to be done afterwards. So this in turn led to the first draft of a roadmap in the case of technology transfer. You needed the research actions, which then led on to the research lines, and eventually you end up with, in this case, a technology transfer research roadmap. So in order to help, we have these 3 areas: technology transfer, inclusive HCI, network applications. But you need to actually test, does this actually make sense? So we looked in particular at 3 areas. One was smart homes, smart living, etc., which covers all these areas, and seeing how does this fit in and how does it relate. Another pilot area we looked at to test it was e-learning. And then thirdly, slightly differently, we looked at the impact, funding and the feasibility with various experts around the world for these various proposals. So the overall roadmap structure was that at the bottom level you had this technology transfer, inclusive HCI and network-based services, which led up to research actions, which then get defined as to research lines, and in the end you end up with an overall research agenda roadmap. That sounds all very simple, but when you actually start looking at the roadmap itself, it becomes incredibly complex because you've got time, you've got short-term projects, medium-term, long-term, what needs to be done beforehand, and the various interactions. So we went through all the research lines and asked a variety of experts to look at what was the impact, what would be the actual benefit of doing that particular research line, and what impact would it have, particularly on people with disabilities. What was the probability of public funding being required in order that to happen? Or would it possibly happen on its own without any additional funding? Was the research going to be actually done in the mainstream area anyway? And what was the actual feasibility of these actions? So what we didn't end up with was saying, well, you need to spend 10% of your money on ambient intelligence and another 20% on the Internet of Things and so much on augmented reality. It was much more on the process. And what came out as kind of the dominant thing, the most important, was end-user participation and user needs analysis. And that's a proper scientific analysis of user needs rather than some of the superficial stuff we've seen to date. Next most important is human factors studies, a holistic approach to HCI, advanced development design methodologies and tools, innovative user interfaces, interoperability and standardization, social context and impact. So as you can see, it is very much the process stuff, and this is what was deemed. Now this would have been very different if we'd done this study 20, 30 years ago. There would have been probably much more likely to look at the technologies and say, what technologies do we need to develop for disabled people? Now, most of the technologies are being developed by the mainstream. We are very, very minor players. But what the mainstream is not looking at is what are the accessibility aspects of that. And that is why this looks very different to what I think it would have looked back like some years ago. When we did surveys on this at the end, we found that all research lines were deemed to actually have an high impact. All seemed to require some level of public funding, and somewhat surprisingly, they all deemed to be quite feasible. Therefore, it was difficult to make a case for discarding any particular one or the other. So that is why we end up with rather a complex roadmap. So we ended up with 14 research lines and 72 different research actions. However, the way we got there was hopefully by a reasonably systematic road mapping process which involved a pretty wide range of stakeholders, and I think that's what's quite important. So there's a lot more detail than I've gone into today on the project website, which is www.cardiac-eu.org, and you'll find all the details of the actual roadmaps and the process by which we got there. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, John. So I would like to know if there is any question addressed to John. I think I can also enable your microphone so that you can directly make your questions in case. So, okay, so I can read your comments. Okay, so I would say I would thank all participants, all presenters. John Gill was the last presenter left today, and well, you already know that the recordings of this webinar will be available on the website in the next days, and well, if you have any other questions, you can send direct emails to presenters. I will forward you contacts of the Australian colleagues. And that's all. And the next webinar, which will be also the closing webinar of the ETNA project, will be in December. It will be I think the second Wednesday of December. Will be the 8th. No, sorry, the 11th should be of December. And so we will try to give an overview and of the project as a conclusion. So thank you, and hear from you by email. Bye bye.